really slow for some. There it is. Okay. And all right, very interesting. Okay. I'm sorry, just a minute here.
Should have this set up.
I did have
Yak
this.
my yak.
I have this down here, but for some reason this page won't share. I don't know why. Because I wanted this page to come up. Oh, there it is. Okay. Just want people to be able to see what we're looking at. Okay, so we are on the workbook today. Page 53, lesson 8 on prepositions. First note at the top, and this is important for a couple of the, or at least one of the questions that we probably won't get to today, is that ice, ek, and n, 3 of the prepositions are called proclitics, which mean that they are so closely associated with the words that follow that they don't have an accent. They essentially, they draw or use the accent from the word that follows them. And there is a question to that effect. Let's go through there is supplemental vocabulary, which I can't share. I should have added these on the notes. But hama, it technically is an adverb, means together with. This is used in 1 Thessalonians 4 when it says that the dead in Christ rise first, and then we who are alive, we are all caught up together with. Hama, all of us together. So it's modifying caught up. Apothnesko, which is a word that they're going to use down here, is I die. Comes from, related to the noun thanatos, death. Zao, I live. Diabolos, devil, or slanderer. Didaskalos, didaskalos, I should say, teacher. Exo, which obviously is related to our preposition ek. It means outside of. And then ha Jesus, which is Jesus. And poieo, I do or make. Ta sabaton, just to ask a question, since it has a ta there, what gender is this? Since it has, what?
Neuter.
It's neuter. Okay, so it's a neuter noun. Ta sabaton, and then hosta, which they translate so. Hosta is technically a compound of hos, so, and hate, when or that. So I'm accustomed to translating it so that. So is fine. My old training always comes in, and I always was used to translating it so that. Okay, so let's go through. We're going to start here with number 2. Oh, I was going to say 2 things about 2 of those verbs, which you don't need to know this right now, but it is relative. The verb zao, I live, and poieo. Both of them are what we call contract verbs. And zao is an ao verb, and poieo is an eo verb, and then there is also an ao. So there's an alpha, omicron, and epsilon contract verb sets, and they each follow those. And if you have, let me pull this up out of here for you here. Oh, I don't have it anymore, do I? In here, the big chart.
Yeah.
You have it in yours?
It's at home.
Okay. The large fold-out chart that comes inside those. There is, yes. There we go. I'm going to stop the share for just a second so everybody can see what I'm referring to.
This one is an old one. So
when you look at this chart, when you look at down this chart, these are contract verbs. So here we have, these are aos, phileo, this is the eos, and delao is with the omicron. And so they go across. And so they're going to break out somewhat similar to these, but they're going to have some little alterations in there because you have an extra vowel connected
So they are
with the ending.
not omega verbs.
Not strictly. They follow generally the omega verb, but there's going to be some changes due to the fact that there's an extra vowel in the ending. Okay. Oh, here, let me, in case you're looking online, this is the chart we're talking about. You get this in the back of some of these books, but it's included usually in the back of our Essentials of Greek textbook, Summers textbook and such. And you probably can find these charts online too. So anyway, and so those are contract verbs, which we will learn hopefully someday. We'll see if we get there. At the rate that I'm teaching and going through this, it may take us a long time to reach that. Okay, so 8.2a, we're in, we're not going to get down to the sentences for a while that I have listed up here. So we're going to be going through these in the workbook here. But 8.2a, prepositions show two things.
Direction and location.
Okay, direction and location of action. And I would say that there's a little bit more to prepositions than direction and location. There are other things. There's means and such like that, but these give us the general idea. Okay, the second one there, the definite article may act substantively, not only for a noun, but also a preposition. So prepositions have a variety of meanings, which only the context will reveal. So context is the only place where you're actually going to know for sure the meaning of these. The next one is a
preposition.
Preposition is a word which is used to help substantives express their case function. And normally it immediately precedes the substantive with which it is associated. I should have probably pulled up an example where we can see it separated by a little bit distance. It doesn't happen that often or that often. So now I have a problem with the next one because I did not know how to answer this. I want to know what you put down for an answer. There's two blanks.
I put direction and location.
Okay. For 8.3b?
Oh, sorry, 8.3c. I put other words for 8.3b.
Other words, okay. Because I put down adverbs, and I was wondering why they had two blanks there. Other words might do there, because adverbs sometimes function as prepositions, and hamma up above is an example of an adverb. And so I was drawing that from the textbook because that's what the textbook had was adverbs, but other words.
It says other words such as adverbs.
There we go.
Can also function.
There we go. Okay. I did not piece that together. Okay. So 8.3c, really the answer to those prepositions developed in language to clarify the relationship of the verb to the noun and to mark. We already seen the direction and location of the action expressed by the verb. So when you're learning these, only the basic meanings are in our vocabulary. However, in the translated text, other possible meanings occur. So what are the three principles that govern the correct translation of a preposition?
Basic meaning, case construction, and usage in context.
Okay. Absolutely.
I only found two of those. I felt like, well, no, I guess all three of them are there. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. All three are in the book.
They are, yes.
I thought I made one up.
So as we've said, when we talk about basic meaning, remember how I described when you have like a definition of a word or a translation, remember the expression I'm using?
Gloss.
Okay, it's called a gloss. There's one way of referring to it. I always think like when you're translating and doing this, we always have what, when I've taken Greek classes, they would call it a provisional translation. That is, this is kind of where you're starting. This is your starting point. And as you continue working on it, you're revising, you're changing things. So you start with a basic meaning, but then context, the last of those three is going to be the thing that's going to drive your final translation, make you fine tune it. That, and sometimes trying to give your translation to somebody else to read and going, they can't make heads or tail out of that translation. And then you realize what might seem obvious to you might not make any sense to somebody else. And so you kind of have to figure out ways of revising your translation so that it makes more sense. 8.5, and some of that goes back to the idea of a sentence, which we were talking about in the previous lesson. 8.5a, many prepositions drop the final short vowel when they appear before a word beginning with a vowel, and this is called
Elision.
Elision. Okay, and what do we add to show that it's lost?
An apostrophe.
An apostrophe. Okay. And we also find that prepositions that experience elision can experience a change in the final consonant if it is a mute consonant. So we're going to remember, when you have to go back and understand what the different kinds of consonants that we have. If you need to go back and review those, you go back to, I believe it's in lesson 2, under pronunciation. No, it's not under that. I was thinking that was where it was at. So it must be in the first one. We have mutes at the bottom of page 4 in the textbook. We have mutes. So we have beta, gamma, delta, theta, kappa, pi, tau, phi, and chi. Those are mutes. Okay. And they're mutes because there is, when you pronunciate them, there is a momentary closure. When you pronounce them, pronunciate. Oh man. Sometimes I think I should not be teaching. There is a momentary closure and a stoppage of breath, whereas with liquids are like lambda. It's a lambda. It's just smooth. It just kind of goes through there like that. Whereas with mute, there's a stop, a little momentary stop, and therefore they're called mutes. Okay. So just to kind of help you remember when it's talking about mutes, since it's been a while since we've been back here at the beginning of the book, to remind us what they're talking about here for sure. Okay, top of page 54 in the book. One of the predominant uses of the preposition is its combination with a blank to form compound verbs. With a verb, okay. So I used the example the other day of epi with the verb ginosko, know, epiginosko, to perfecting, to really know. 8.6b, what redundant feature takes place when a verb compounded by a preposition appears in a sentence? So to make sure you understand what we're talking about, you've got the verb, you've added a preposition to it. What other thing happens oftentimes?
Preposition is repeating before the noun.
Okay. An example of that we have in the New Testament, and it open it here for a minute, is in Romans 7. And it's actually a, I could pull this up on here. Let me do that. Let's stop sharing and let me pull up my Bible program. Let's go to Romans 7. I think we want to go down to verse 19. Nope. Oh, I should have had this one ready ahead of time. I'm looking for the sin that dwells in me, and I was thinking it was verse 19, but it's not.
17.
Oh, it's 17. And see, part of the problem here is, this is why I should have looked at this one ahead of time, because there is a textual problem on what?
Textual problem.
There's a textual problem on here because it says the dwelling in me sin, and there is we have a number of Greek texts that actually have the indwelling in me sin. So it actually has the preposition compounded to the verb. So it's like really emphasizing, and he says this twice, and I was just trying to make sure I was right to find the second one there as an example. But he's really trying to emphasize the significance of the problem of this sin nature that dwells in him. But I don't see the other part of it. So anyway, okay. So go back to my page here. Share this. Okay. So okay. So the first of these sentences, which we have down here now on a page that everybody can see. First of all, if I'm going to put Peggy on the spot here. You don't want to read it in Greek voice? You don't want to pronounce it in Greek?
She does really badly.
I know, she would do fine.
Ha apostolos didaskai ente ecclesia.
Okay. Do you want to try? Okay, she does not want to try to translate this. This is her agreement. So
the apostle, he teaches in the church.
Oh, hey, wow, good job. Okay, so locate. So we're going to be looking at the noun apostolos to begin with. The part of speech is that it is a noun. Its case in this case is nominative, and its number is singular. Functions in the sentence as the subject of the sentence. It's masculine in gender. Its lexical form is the same form we have in the sentence. Lexical form always reminding us is this is what that's the form you would find if you looked this up in a Greek lexicon. A tip on some Greek lexicons, not all, if they're a bigger Greek lexicon, they probably will have a list in the back of forms of verbs, especially that you're likely to find the word in that aren't going to match the lexical form in there, so that it can help you figure out, oh, I'm looking for this, and it'll help you figure out which word to go look for. So that you look at your form in the text and you're not going to find that form listed in the main lexicon itself. With modern Bible software where you tap on a word and boom, it pops up, this is hardly a problem. But if you're still using the old hardbound paper lexicons like I do all the time, it's a good tip. And I always figure, when the system all crashes and we can't use all this stuff, we're going to have to go, no, I'm sorry.
We're all going to have to go.
We'll have to go back to the old, we're all going to have to go back to the paper stuff. Yeah. Anyway, it's a second declension. Okay. Number B down there, ecclesia, and they want to know, is it dative, is it locative, or is it instrumental? So it says the apostle teaches in the church. Do we think that he's teaching for the church, teaching in the church, or teaching by means of the church? In the church. So it's locative. And so they're asking, how can we be sure? I would say the number one reason we can be sure is context, and the fact that locative seems to make more sense than the other two in this case.
Preposition.
And the preposition, although the preposition "in" also is going to function sometimes, we're going to translate it by means of. So sometimes it's going to indicate instrument. It doesn't normally, and does not normally indicate dative for. You have other prepositions that are going to work that direction for the dative. Okay, so number 2.
Wait, the significance of this case.
What is the significance of the case locative? It indicates the location where the teaching is taking place. Yes, thank you. Number 2.
Hamathetes legai parabolin peri tes basileias. And I translated that the disciple is saying or says a parable About the kingdom.
Okay. And I translated the disciple says, but I also put below there speaks, or is speaking. I think that it's just kind of depending how well, the kind of English you're trying to communicate. So
Sure, which
it's a tough one
is
to,
confusing to me because isn't there another word that we
Yeah.
learned that
Yeah.
For
is
speaking?
Yeah.
yes, but legai is says or speaks. So it kind of can go both ways. That's why there's not always one definition that's right for Lego, not one definition right for these other terms. There are nuances in those terms, but so what?
That's really helpful.
But I would say yes, that's a good translation. Okay, so
The word mathetes appears to be genitive singular feminine or ablative singular and has a nominative singular masculine definite article preceding it. Why?
I couldn't even get through that.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the word appears to be genitive singular feminine. It is a nominative singular masculine noun, but it's a first declension noun, so it has the ace ending.
okay, so just highlighting this here. This is the word that we're talking about, and if this were in a second declension, it would have an second declension. What's the predominant vowel for the endings? Omicron. So it would be an os ending, but because it's first declension, it's alpha or eta ending. But one of the things that helps us catch that is that it has the masculine definite article. So just for clarity here. Okay. Going to go away. Okay, I don't want that now. No. There we go. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Okay.
Is basileus genitive singular feminine, ablative singular feminine, or accusative plural feminine? I said genitive singular feminine. What is the significance of the case function that the preposition expresses? These are so many words. It's the case of distinction.
Description. Genitive is the case of
Sorry,
description.
yes.
Yeah.
I use lots of words to mean the same thing.
What you said is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just because they're going to use description several times throughout here. So I was just using the word that he uses. Furthermore, Perry, because they ask a specific question here about the preposition, the case function that the preposition expresses, Perry with the genitive indicates something about, okay? So a parable about the kingdom, kind of what we have. Okay, very good.
Okay.
Do you want to do, you don't have to.
Arton, soon, carpois, ferusin, ectu, oiku, kai, pras, tus, anthropus.
Okay. And
I'm done.
that's all you're, hey, there we go. Okay. So our verb in that sentence is what word? Pharisee. Okay. And we don't have a subject expressed anywhere else in that sentence. So we're going to start by saying they carry. And then we're going to look for an object. And the object we find is, what case do we find an object of a verb in? Accusative case.
Verb?
The object of the verb.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Not the subject of the verb, but the object of the verb. Yeah, the accusative, and so that's bread. So they carry bread with fruit out of the house and to the men. Okay. This is the way I did you?
So I actually translated Pharusin to they are bringing
Sure.
versus they carry. bread together with fruit out of the house. Why
Okay.
did I say together with? Probably says that somewhere.
You're just expanding on the idea of with. So
So what did you say?
You just said
I said they carry bread with fruit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she said together with fruit. So she just expanded on the with idea. Okay. So the verb pharos.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
and toward the men.
And toward the men is the way you went.
That's
And
what I said. Did
and-
you translate that part of the sentence yet?
yes, and I said to the
Oh,
men. Yeah.
sorry.
So yeah,
I just missed that whole.
yeah. And to or toward is I would say adding a little bit more specificity than the loose translation I went with.
I had a really long discussion yesterday about how that is who I am.
Oh,
These specific words in my world. It might get confusing.
but it does help people understand what we're trying to say. Dissect and parse pharosin. First of all, the part of speech is it's a verb. Tense, voice, and mood, present, active, indicative. It is a third person plural, and its lexical form is pharaoh. It means to carry or to bear, or as you went, bring. So you're bringing something, which is the idea of carrying. The stem would be fair. The ending is usi or usin. If we have the movable noun at the end, the connecting vowel is omicron, and the subject is they. So, what case does the use of ek in here? We have ek tu oiku. What case does the use of ek call for in this verse? And so they ask, does ek portray description or separation? So let's work backwards. Ek indicates what? Description? Are you describing or are you separating? When you separating. So which case expresses separation? The ablative. Okay, so that answers that. So both parts are answered then. Is anthropos, the end of the sentence, is anthropos classed as the object of the preposition pros?
Is anthropos class as the object of the preposition pros?
Yeah.
Yes.
Answer is yes, it is. It's also it's not the object of the verb because they're not carrying what? Men. They're carrying it to the men. So it's the object. So even though it is an accusative case, it's not functioning. The preposition changes the way it's related to the action of the verb. Okay, I think that's answered. Okay.
Why or why not?
What?
Why?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, because you answered.
Right,
that.
that's what I was answering, yes. Okay, number 4. I'll tackle number 4 then. Christos apathanin huper ton hamartion hemon katatasgraphas, which is Christ died.
You're reading too fast.
I'm sorry. You want me to go back and read it more slowly?
No.
Okay, oh, and I need to change. We're on the next page. It's this one right up here. We'll
So
just
read
move
again.
to this one. So, okay, so we'll try it again. Christos apathanen huper ton hamation hemon katatas graphas. So it's Christ died in place of this.
Okay.
Christ died in place of the sins, ours. We probably would drop most translations drop the, and they say in place of our sins, or for, a lot of times they just say for our sins, according to the scriptures.
So you're saying in place of, but the definitions we have for huper are in behalf of or for the sake of.
Okay, yes. So,
Which is
yeah.
the same.
We're really kind of saying the same thing. In place of, again, is just, I'm looking at it It's the idea of huper is one of the prepositions that indicates the idea of substitution.
I'm dying on behalf of, which means you're in place of. that
Right.
person.
Yeah. On behalf of or in place of. I had, I hate to even bring this up because I partly feel bad. Youthful exuberance and ignorance. I'm sorry to have to bring this up, but when my wife's father was in the hospital and passing away, the chaplain that came in and was talking with us was Episcopalian, and he was talking with the family, and I had a paper that I was reading for a class on substitutionary atonement, substitution of Christ's death. And that man happened to see the paper sitting there and asked me, what does that mean even? And he'd already finished seminary in his training, and he'd never heard going through his Episcopalian, which I was really surprised. I would have thought they had something they would have explained. They might have used different terminology he didn't know, but this is one of the terms in that paper that it was developed, this idea that when Christ died, he died as a substitute on our behalf, and he had not learned that. So I think it's understanding these words, and this actually makes for an interesting study. There's a series of at least 4 words in the New Testament prepositions that all of them indicate some idea of substitution in one sense or another, not all exactly the same sense. And it's a good thing to know these verses and to be able to be acquainted with them, because you're going to run into people that have never heard of the fact that Christ actually took our place. That man had not. And my brother-in-law and I got to talk with him a little while in the midst of, this is why I look back and I'm going, we took the time to do this. We shared the gospel with the guy, but my wife's going through a very traumatic time. And I look back anyway. Is that something to learn in a Greek class? Well, you learn something about substitutionary atonement, but maybe learn that there's other things going on in life that you should pay attention to. Anyway, I apologize for digressing on all of that. Parse apothanon, and the reason we're doing, and they do all the work for us on this because it's not
That one and the next one.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
and the reason they're doing it, it's a verb. I disagree with them. The stem is apothan. The
Wait.
subject is apothan. That's the stem,
Okay.
not the lexical form. Lexical form is apthnesko. But the subject is Christos, Christ. He's the one that did. The tense is a second aorist. We haven't even looked at aorists yet. It's not a deponent. It's active. It's an active verb. I'm not for sure why they have it classified as a deponent
Never
here.
even heard that.
Yeah, I was
one.
like, what is
Okay.
that? Depth.
I think, let me look ahead here. Oh, I think we've got 2.
13:1 and 16:2.
Are you serious?
That's what it says in the.
Oh, we do not get to middle and passives until lesson 11. Well, I thought we were getting there in the next lesson. I need to pay more attention to where we're going. Anyway, but deponents are related to middle and passive. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But it should be an active. So I would scratch that out and write active or ACT next to that. It is indicative mood. It's third person singular. We have not learned pronouns, which I believe we are learning pronouns when we get into the next lesson. I believe, yeah, personal pronouns. And so haimon is a pronoun. So that's what 1PP is first personal pronouns, what that's standing for. The case is genitive. Probably can guess that by looking at the ending on that. It's plural. You probably can guess that. The gender is not applicable because there's no gender for personal pronouns. The lexical form is ego, I, which we've already learned I in one of the previous lessons. This is just ego would be the singular form. And the declension, again, is not applicable. There's no declension with personal pronouns. Okay. Is graphos, is it genitive singular feminine, ablative singular feminine, or accusative plural feminine? Accusative plural feminine. It is with kata. It's talking about the standard in this case. So kata with the accusative means according to her standard. While if it is with the genitive, kata would mean it's down or against. So that means Christ died in place of our sins, down against the scriptures, or down or against the scriptures, which doesn't make sense, but according to, by the standard of the scriptures. And according to scriptures, I don't think we need a lesson in this, but that simply means that the scriptures, you go to the scriptures and they would give you the standard. You could read there and they would tell you exactly how this happened. This is what he was trying to get at. Any questions on those?
I said the definite article.
Well, and the definite article does tell you that too. Yeah. Okay. Number 5 down there at the bottom. What?
You sure?
Yes, that one's still up here. So we're going to sentence number 5.
Lambonomen agathas didakas apo to pistu adelphu. Okay, I said we are receiving the good teaching from the faithful brothers. But that's not what it should say, because it should be good teaching, not the good teaching.
Okay. You caught that. There's one other thing that you need to change in your translation.
Okay.
And it's a small, it's just a,
Lambonomen agathas didakas. Good teaching. Apo to pistu adelphu. Hold
okay.
on.
How'd you translate the last noun in that verse?
Brothers.
Brothers. Oh, but it's not. It's brother singular.
Brother singular, yes. If it was plural, it would be
Adelphus.
fus, or because it's in the genitive case,
Phone.
own. Yeah, own. Yeah, adelphone. Yes. I'd encourage you, just for the sake of your, go back and try practicing writing out the declension, the endings and such, doing those. Don't let those slide.
I've been doing that for 2 weeks.
Good. Okay.
Okay, so we are receiving good teaching from the faithful brother.
Okay.
Okay. Dissect and parse lambonomen is a verb, present tense, active voice, indicative mood, first person, plural, lexical form lambano, stem lamban, ending amen, connecting vowel omicron, and subject we. Is the above use of the 2 adjectives a matter of accidents or syntax? I feel like I don't understand this well enough to answer this question, because I feel like it's both. Accidents because it helps us know which words are being modified, and syntax because that tells us how they're being modified.
And that was the way I thought that it should be answered also.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a trick question. I think he's probably looking for the fact it's primarily syntax because they modify the nouns, but I can't help but think it's accidents because you have to change the form of the word to show which noun it's related to. So yeah, I agree.
Okay. Is apo used with the genitive or ablative case? What is the significance of this use? I said ablative, and that it's the case of separation.
Okay, I wanted to look one thing on that. Yeah, so it's coming from the faithful brother, because I had another note. Yeah, both the preposition and the case indicate separation. Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay. You know, when when I was growing up, and I don't know if Peggy's teachers were like this, but when we went through school, the teachers, you gave answers and you just gave a short answer, like one word or two words. But when our girls were going through school and when we were subbing up there, teachers were really big on complete sentence answers. And I sometimes understand that because when I'm lazy and I put down the short answer, then I'm going, what do they mean by that? So anyway, do you want to try reading the next one? You're actually doing really well. Just to encourage you.
Irene Ekomen Prostan Theu Dia Tu Kuriu Hemon Jesus Christu.
And go back and look at the theos noun. Say it again.
Theon.
Theon, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What'd I say?
Theou.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't. it looks
I
like
realize
here,
those
yeah, so-
those two for you probably look
Yeah.
very much the same. Where's what is our verb in that sentence?
Yep.
Ekomen.
Ekomen. Is there a subject expressed outside of the verb in that sentence anywhere?
Not that I saw.
No, there isn't. So the sentence is going the sort of subject is going to be part of the verb. We have our object. It's going to be peace. We have peace. Why do you think it writes it like that? Why do you think it puts it in the place where it puts peace first instead of putting emphasis on peace? Just like, and we had another one like that a little while ago. I was going to point that out on, and I totally forgot. Oh, it's bread with fruit we were carrying. So it's probably really, you're trying to lay emphasis on bringing bread and fruit. Get back to our verse here. So we have peace, pros, facing or toward the God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, so why is it not necessary for the subject of ekomen to be stated in this sentence? Because it's stated in the verb ending. Very good. What is the significance of pros in relationship to ekomen and ton theon? Well, I did it in reverse order. I would say God is the one we are facing. So it's pros. God is the object of the preposition. So God is the one we're facing. And we have peace, and have peace is what we have while facing. So we have peace while facing, we're facing God. And I was actually just working on this verse for two different things, for this Bible study, reviewing it, but also for something else I was working on. And the significance of having peace with God is that when we approach God, when we come to him, we're talking to him or anything like that, there's never a battle. From God's point of view, it's done. We might come and we might have a beef with God, but from God's side, it's over. The war is all over. And that's really important, that we are not approaching and talking to a God that's hostile towards us. That's the whole point of Romans 5:1. And I think a lot of Christians miss that. We always think it's strictly talking about that the war is over. So now you're not at war with God anymore. But we don't understand with the very next verse when he's talking about access. So a little Bible lesson on the side, because I was just going over that. And I just think that that's such a precious truth, that God never acts. He's never hostile towards us as we're approaching him. Number C on there, how is dia at the end, dia translated in this sentence? How would we translate that? Dia tu kuriu.
What? Where?
Dia,
See? Okay.
yeah. How would we translate that? What? Through. Okay. Through, or through means of. It occurs at the end. On what do you base your answer? Well, it's occurring with the genitive case of kuriu Jesu Christu. Dia, I was using the example the other day, how we get the word via from that, and that has to do like a viaduct. It has to do with something that it's a channel to get you there. So what he's saying is, when we approach God and we have this peace, it's always coming through the person of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ sits at the Father's right hand, and we actually approach God through Christ. We don't approach God independent of Jesus Christ. This is one of the places where Roman Catholicism sadly messes Christians up, because they think they've got a better access by coming through Mary, but they don't. We actually come directly because we are already, or through a priest, but we come directly because we're seated in Christ, and we come directly through Christ to the Father.
Because he is our peace.
That's right. We're going to tackle one more, and then we're going to have to cut this off. So I'm going to let you do this one over here, Robin.
Okay. Dia ton graphon ton matheton genoskamen ten aletheia. And I said, we know the truth through the writings of the disciples.
What?
Where's the verb right there? Yeah, way down. Way over.
Okay, so what is the relationship of graphon to the preposition dia?
Well, it's said to C83D of the workbook, which doesn't exist. And I looked because I hate this question. What is the relationship of graphon to the preposition dia? So graphon is the noun. So I just said it clarifies case. It helps us better distinguish which case we're looking at.
It does. In other words, graphon is what's the word that what we're using for a noun that's related to a preposition. It's the blank of a preposition. It's the object of the preposition. We have an object of a verb.
Oh, okay.
We have an object of a verb. We also have the object of a preposition. Okay. And just in the same way that we were just talking about Jesus being the channel or avenue through which we approach the Father, here he's saying the scriptures are the avenue through which we know truth. So we don't know truth. We don't know truth just by going out and looking at the sky. Okay, B.
Is graphon genitive or ablative? I said genitive. What about matheton? I circled matheton, and I'm not sure why. Because now I have to go back and look. Same. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Nope.
What gender? Gender?
What? Well, matheton is going to be through the writings of the disciples.
Masculine.
No, they want to know, is it genitive or
Yes, it's
ablative?
masculine.
I was looking at the wrong
Or
question, sorry.
Ablative, genitive. Because
Okay.
it's their writings.
Okay.
And yes, it's masculine.
And just to throw you a ringer,
All right.
I also think a case potentially could be made that we're talking about an ablative of source, the writings that come from them.
From them.
So
Okay.
it doesn't dramatically change the meaning, but it is just something to think about. Okay, number C.
Why does the noun aletheia end with on and has tain as its definite article? Because it's a first declension feminine noun ending in epsilon,
Okay,
and the gender dictates articles.
okay. And what are the vowel or what are the letters, excuse me, that a first declension noun ends in that changes first declension endings from A to from eta to alpha? What are the?
Epsilon, iota,
Iota.
and rho.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, I have to go help somebody or be available to, so I'm going to have to